Simcha Chasam V'Gala Asher Bara Sasai B'Simcha Sasai B'Simcha Chasam V'Gala Ilarina Di'itza Tzal V'Chedlo Ahava Hava V'Yachva V'Shalai Shalai V'Neh Ay Ilarina Di'itza Tzal V'Chedlo Ahava.
Good morning to one and all, and welcome. Today's topic is why Moshe Rabbeinu's name was deleted from Parshas Tetzaveh from the halachic and then Kabbalistic and Hasidic point of view. Let's begin with a fascinating commentary of the Baal HaTurim in the beginning of this week's Parshas Tetzaveh. Rabbeinu Yaakov, the Baal HaTurim, who wrote famously the Tur, which was of course the prerequisite for the Shulchan Aruch and thus the most fundamental text of Jewish law, also wrote a commentary on Chumash known as Baal HaTurim. These are his words in this week's Parsha, Tetzaveh. Lo Yehuskar Moshe Bazeh HaSeder, source number 1. Lo Yehuskar Moshe Bazeh HaSeder, Ma she'ein kein b'chol ha'chumer she'misho she'noilad Moshe ein seder she'lo Yehuskar bo chutz me'Mishnah Torah. The Baal HaTurim here notes the fascinating fact there is not one Parsha in Chumash from Moshe's birth in which he is not mentioned. Meaning, obviously, in Bereshis, Moshe is not mentioned. It would be hard to mention him before he was born. But from Parshas Shmois, every Parsha has Moshe's name. Throughout Shmois, Vayikra, Bamidbar, till Dvarim. And even Dvarim, Moshe speaks, the whole Sefer Dvarim. Eila HaDvarim Asher Diber Moshe. And the rest of Dvarim is essentially Moshe giving a speech, Moshe giving an address. There's one exception, Parshas Tetzaveh. Not once throughout the parsha is Moshe mentioned. Zok de Baal HaTurim v'hatam, the reason is Mishum sha'amar mecheni no misifrecha asher kasofta. Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Rebbeinu Shalom, I want you to blot me out, I want you to delete me from the book you have written. V'kila laschochem afilu al t'nai bo. And the Gemara says in Masechta Makkos Daf Yud Aleph that when a sage, a chacham, curses, so even if it's on condition, it has an impact. V'niskayim bozeh. It was fulfilled in this Parshas Tetzaveh. What is the Baal HaTurim referring to? So in the next source we have the pasuk in Parshas Kisisa. After the Jewish people create the Egel Azov, the golden calf, and many of them worship it, and Hashem tells Moshe, there is really no future and destiny with this people. Let me eliminate them and we'll begin again with you. And Moshe Rabbeinu turns to Hashem and he says these words, Va'ata now, im tisachatosam, if you will forgive their transgression is good. V'im ayin, if not, mecheni no misifrecha asher kasafta. I am also out of this picture. I'm out of this scene. Erase me from the Sefer that you have written, from the Sefer Torah. I don't want to be mentioned. I am not part of your story. I'm not part of the story of Torah. I'm not part of the story of the history of the Jewish people. Now, of course, Moshe influenced. Hashem forgave the Jewish people. In fact, a few thousand years later, we're still here talking about it. But the Baal HaTurim says that Kilul Aschachem, when a sage gives a curse, Moshe Rabbeinu says, erase me from the Sefer Torah, even though it was only on condition. If you don't forgive them, but it has an impact. And because it has an impact, there's one parsha from which Moshe Rabbeinu was erased. Which parsha? Parshas Tetzaveh, there the Mecheni was fulfilled. Derech Agav, stand parenthetically, I once heard an interesting word that was said by a Yid, his name was Rabbi Yitzchak Shneyason. Rabbi Yitzchak Shneyason was the father of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he was the Rav of a city called Dnepropetrovsk in the Ukraine. Its name used to be Yekaterinoslav, but after the revolution, Lenin and Stalin made sure to convert all Russian names that had any zecher to Tsarist times. It was changed. So Petersburg had to be changed to Leningrad, and Yekaterinoslav, which was named after Catherine, Yekaterina, had to be changed to Dnepropetrovsk. He was a Rav there. Ultimately, he was exiled by the communists, and he passed away in 1944. He once said a word. Rashi says that this pasuk is missing a word, right? Va'ata imti sechatosam v'im ayin. It should have said va'ata imti sechatosam toiv. It's missing, so we have to, so to speak, insert an extra word. If you forgive them is good. V'im ayin. So it's what we call lashon ktsara. The Torah is brief, it's not only brief, it's really missing. It's missing a word, and it happens once in a while that you have to insert a word to understand the structure. Rabbi Yitzchak said a pshat. He said, I guess you could say on this like father, like son. He said, "Va'ata im tisa chatasam v'im ayin mechenina misivrecha shekasafta." Whether you forgive them or not, I want you to erase me from the Sefer Torah. Why? Because the hava amina, the fact that you entertained a notion, a thought, that you could destroy the Jewish people, what justified it? It was because of me. Because you had hope that I will become the father of the new nation. If my mitzias, if my identity can create the hava amina, the legitimacy, the svara, that the Jewish people can be destroyed, then even if you forgive them. But if my reality could cause you to have this machshava, that now you can destroy the Jewish people, this gives an extra geschmack in the Baal HaTurim, that even if they're forgiven, there's a mechenina, not only al tanai. So which parsha was this implemented? It was implemented in Parshas Tetzaveh. The Baal HaTurim is not only the one who says it. As I pointed out in the first source, you have it in Zohar Chodosh, Shir Hashirim. Zohar Chodosh, you'll often see in Svarim Zohar Chodosh, there's the regular Zohar, and then there were manuscripts of the Zohar that didn't make it into publishing when the Zohar was first printed in the 1300s. So the great Kabbalist of Avraham Halevi from Tzvas, who compiled these manuscripts of the Zohar that were never printed, published a new Zohar, Zohar Chodosh, and he divided the manuscripts based on Parshas. So in Zohar Chodosh and Shir Hashirim, he says this word. The Rosh, in his commentary, which of course precedes the Baal HaTurim, that's his father, says it in the beginning of Kisisa. The Balei HaTosos, Rabbi Seinu Balei HaTosos, and Rabbeinu Bechaya say it in Parshas Kisisa. All the same word that Tetzaveh is the parsha without Moshe, because he said Mechenina Mesifrecha Shekasafta. Now obviously here there's a very simple and straightforward question. And that is, how do we understand this? It seems like this was a punishment for Moshe Rabbeinu, because he said, blot me out of the Sefer Torah, so therefore it happened. What happened? He was deleted from Parshas Tetzaveh. So Moshe is not mentioned. You read through the whole parsha, you don't see Moshe Rabbeinu. But what was this for? What was he being punished for? He put his life on the line. He begged mercy and compassion for his people. He affected and influenced Kavayachal the Rebbeinu Shalom not to go through with his plan after the Chet HaEgel. And as a result of that, he's deleted from the Sefer Torah. As a result of that, he's blotted out. In other words, if he would have not asked compassion, if he would have not told Hashem, I need you to forgive them, then of course his name would be all over the place. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, as a Maneg Yisrael, stands up and says, it's not going to happen on my clock. The Jewish people are going to survive. What's the Havana that as a result of this, his name was blotted out of the Sefer Torah? Essentially, it's even more strange. And that is, from all the parshas in the Torah, there's one parsha that begins with the word Va'ata Tetzaveh. And the Gemara in Masechta Megillah, when it goes through Parshias, it names this parsha not Tetzaveh, but Va'ata Tetzaveh. What does Va'ata Tetzaveh mean? You shall command. Who is this Va'ata we're talking about? We're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, you. Not with his name, but actually Va'ata, you. So there's one parsha that actually begins... There's no parsha named Moshe, right? Even Yisro, the parsha of Matan Torah, his father-in-law got the name, not him. There's one parsha, Va'ata Tetzaveh, you shall command, that actually refers to Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's what it's called, Ad Hayom Hazeh, Va'ata Tetzaveh, or Tetzaveh, you shall instruct. Who is the you Moshe Rabbeinu? So we have here a very interesting paradox. There's one parsha which his name is completely deleted, and yet that very same parsha is the parsha which the entire name is called you, which means Moshe Rabbeinu, but not your name, just you, and we all have to figure out who the you is, but it's not a great question who the you is. There's a commentary of the Vilna Gaon on Tetzaveh, And Kedarka, he saw everything, and he saw a lot in terms of numerology. Actually, in the sources, it fell into the last source. So take a look all the way in your last source on page 3. Hagra, the Gra says as follows. Kuf Aleph Tevis. Take a look in Parshas Tetzaveh. How many words are there in this week's Parsha? 101 words. Now, as you know, this is very precise and meticulous. How many words exist in a Parsha? The siman is actually Michal. You know, at the end of every Parsha, you have a siman and a manik to remember. The siman is Michal. Michal, Mem Yud Chaf Aleph Lamed is 101. Zog de Gaon, the Vilna Gaon, Vahatam, Mipnei Shahanelam Mishem Moshe, Hu Kuf Aleph. Because that which is concealed from the name of Moshe is 101. You understand what the Vilna Gaon is saying? Okay. Let me explain to you. The name Moshe has 3 letters. Mem, Shin, He. You can write out the name Moshe as we do with 3 letters, Mem, Shin, He. But really, each one of those letters has what's called a milui, a filling, which when you pronounce it, you can hear it, but when you write it, you usually don't specify the details. Moshe, so you have Mem, you have Shin, and you have He. Mem, how do you spell out Mem if you want to write out the letter Mem fully? Mem is Mem, 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 a double Mem. Shin, if you want to write out the word Shin fully, right? If you want to write out the word of the letter Shin fully, so it's Shin Yud Nun. And He would be He Aleph. Now these extra letters are called the Nelam, the concealed, because when I write Mem, Shin, He, I'm not writing Mem, Mem, Shin, Yud, Nun, He, Aleph. It would be quite cumbersome to do it. I just write Mem, Shin, He. So that's called the aspect of the letter, of the word that's concealed. So the Vilna Gaon says, take a look at these letters. If you take a look at Mem, so you have Mem and Mem. So the extra letter that is concealed is Mem, which is 40. Take a look at the Shin, so the extra letters are Yud and Nun, which is what? 60. So 60 and 40, you have 100. And take the He, the extra letter of the He is the Aleph, so you have 1, so you have 101. So the Vilna Gaon is saying that Parshas Tetzaveh has 101. Has 101 words, because that's the Nelam Mishem Moshe, because that's really the name of Moshe, but it's not the full name the way we pronounce it or write it, which is Mem Shenei. It's those additional letters that make up the Mili of Shem Moshe. But again, what is the meaning of this? So did the Mecheni happen or did the Mecheni not happen? He's blotted out completely, and yet we make sure that not only is it begin with Va'ata Tetzaveh, not only is Moshe mentioned in this parsha many times, but not by name. Because the Rabbi Shalom keeps on telling him, and you do this, and you do this, you dress Aaron, and you dress his children, and you take care of this, and you arrange this aspect, and you arrange the clothes, and the oil, and the whole preparation for the Mishkan and the Begadim. It's all you, but not with your name, but 101 to make sure we have the secret aspects, the hidden aspects of your name. Let us change our focus and attention for a few moments to another item. If you'll take a look back to your page 1 of your sources, take a look at source number 3. After Moshe Rabbeinu achieves atonement for the golden calf, and Hashem tells him to carve out a second set of luchos, of tablets, because he smashed the first luchos when he came down from the mountain and he saw the golden calf. And now he comes down with the second luchos, the fresh tablets after there was forgiveness and atonement and reconciliation, and chapter 2 of the relationship begins. What happens? Zok the Torah at the end of Kisisa, Perek Lamadalat Chavtes. Vayi beredes Moshe mehar Sinai ushnei luchos ha'edus biad Moshe beriditai min hahar u'Moshe lo yada ki koran oir panav bedabroi itai. When he comes down with the 2 fresh tablets, Moshe does not know that his face is glowing. Koran, the skin of his face, has acquired a unique glow and light to the point that the nation was intimidated and overwhelmed when they're gazing at him. Zok the Medrash Rabbah in Shmois Mem Zayin, Parsha Mem Zayin Kisisa. Next piece. Meheicha natal Moshe karnei ha'hoit. Where did this glow come from? The Torah doesn't explain why. What happened? The first time when he comes down with the luchos, he doesn't have this glow. The second time when he comes down with the luchos, suddenly he has these karnei ha'hoit, this extraordinary luminescence displayed over his countenance. Where did he get it from? Rabbi Yehuda ben Nachman b'Shem Reb Shimon ben Levi Omer. Asha Yakosev Bekulmus Nishtayir Kimo. Moshe Rabbeinu was on a mountain. He was writing the Sefer Torah. He was using a pen, so to speak, to write the Torah. And some ink remained in the quill of Moshe. So he took this ink and he passed it, he smeared it over his head. And from this extra ink, he experienced the glow. Now let's understand what this medrash means. Moshe comes up to the mountain, and one of the foundations of the Jewish tradition is that Hashem dictated the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu word for word. As the Rambam describes at length in Hilchos Tshuva, what the definition of a min, a kofer, a pekoyer is, based on, connected to this. So Moshe Rabbeinu is taking dictation from the master of the universe, preparing the Sefer Torah. We're not going to get in now to the debate. The Gemara has an argument in Gittin, if Torah Megillah Nitna, Torah Chasuma Nitna, how the Sefer Torah, if it was all finished in one shot at the end of the 40 years, or is Megillah, each section was written on its own. There's a separate discussion. But certainly after the 40 years, it says in Parshas Vayelech, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote down the whole Sefer Torah. He wrote actually 13 Sefer Torah. He gave one to Bnei Levi, one was placed by the Aaron, and he distributed it to the Shvatim. And that's the Sefer Torah we have. So it comes the Medrash and says, he finishes, and there's ink left in the pen, in the kulmus, in the quill. What should I do with this ink? So what would you do with ink? Of course, smear it on your head, smear it on your face, and because it's the ink that was destined for the Torah, so therefore he gets this glow. But what does this mean? First of all, why was there extra ink? Why was there extra ink? The Rabbi Shalom is dictating the Sefer Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu. He gives him a pen. However, we understand what that pen or quill looked like. I'm not sure. Nobody took a video of the scene. Why was there ink left? Certainly God knew exactly how many words and how many letters he wants in the Sefer Torah. Certainly he knew how much ink is necessary for that amount of words and letters. Why was the ink left? And why would Moshe take this ink and have Vidoy al Rosh place it on his head? And this gives him the light. And it doesn't happen during the first 40 days when he was also on the mountain learning Torah and wrote down the Torah. But then it doesn't happen. It only happens after the second time when he comes down with the second set of tablets. Okay, so we have two items we want to address. Moshe's name being deleted from Tetzaveh, and Moshe taking this extra ink and placing it on his head and on his face. In order to appreciate all of this, let us study together a sugya, a shtickle Gemara in Masechta Baba Kama. However, like every sugya, it needs context, it needs introduction. This sugya, this section in Baba Kama, addresses a very strange story in Tanakh. In the book of Shmuel Beis, almost at the end of Shmuel Beis, chapter 23, tells a story which at first glance seems quite bizarre. David HaMelech is the king of the Jewish people. One of the most potent enemies of the Jewish people are the Plishtim, the Philistines. The Philistines are situated in a town we know very well today called Beis Lechem. David and his troops, the Jewish troops, are not far away. David HaMelech was born in Beis Lechem. He was raised in Beis Lechem, we learn in Shmuel Aleph. But now David, ruling over the Jewish people, is situated in position against the Plishtim. The Plishtim don't stop persecuting, hunting, killing, murdering, capturing Jews and making tzaros, which happens throughout throughout many years of the Jewish people's stay in Eretz Yisrael. And at some point in this conflict, a story happens, and it's recorded in Shmuel Beis Perek Chav Gimel, in the same chapter that discusses David's warriors. There's a chapter in Tanakh Shmuel Beis Perek Chav Gimel that discusses the Giborim Asher LeDavid. David HaMelech had warriors, mighty men who were both bodyguards and fighters, and the Torah, the Tanakh, mentions them by name and discusses some of their great feats. And one of their achievements is this story in your next source, Shmuel Beis Perek Chav Gimel, Pasuk Yud Gimel. Zok the Tanakh, Zok the Navi. Listen to these words. Vayedu shloisha mehashloishim rosh. Vayavoyu el kotzir el David el ma'aras adullah. 3 of his warriors, who were each who were each the leaders of his 30 great security warriors, these were the three top, come during the time of harvest to meet their commander-in-chief David, who is in a place called Ma'oras Adullam, by the cave of Adullam. V'chayas plishtim choyne ba'emek refoyim. The platoons, chayas are the platoons of the Philistines are dwelling in a valley called Refoyim. V'David oz b'metzude o matzav plishtim oz beis lochem. David is in a fortress, and the matzav, this is where the word matzav comes from. The plishtim am gemacht matzav, which literally means the state, the situation. The plishtim are situated in beis lochem. Vayisave David vayoymar. And David had a taiva. David had sich geglust. David had a craving. And this is what he said. Mi ashkeini mayim mi boir beis lechem ashar basham. Who will give me water to drink from the well of Beis Lechem at the gate of Beis Lechem? I am craving water from the well of Beis Lechem, which is, of course, completely dominated by the enemy, by the Plishtim. Vayifku shloishes hagiborim b'machane Plishtim vayishavu mayim miboir Beis Lechem asher bashar vayisu vayovayu al David. 3 of David's giborim break through the Plishtim camp. They go to the well of Beis Lechem, they draw water, and they carry it, and they bring it back to the King David. V'loy avol ishtoisam. He refuses to drink the water. He just asked, Mi ashkeni mayim. He just says, I don't want to drink the water. Vayasech oisam l'Hashem. Takes the water and pours the water for God, for Hashem. Vayomer, and he explains himself. Chalila li Hashem me'asoisi zos. It would be a desecration for me to drink this water. Hadam ha'anoshim ha'hilchim b'nafshoisam. It would be like drinking blood of these people who went with their souls. In other words, what David HaMelech is saying, as most Mefarshim explain, is, for me to drink the water is like drinking human blood. This water is not regular water. It's water that came through absolute sacrifice. They gave their blood for this water. They could have died for this water. Me? Drink this water? No way. And again, he refuses to drink them. This is what the 3 warriors of David HaMelech did. This is the mice. And that's it. The same story is repeated again in Divrei Hayamim, in the book of Chronicles. Aleph, Perek Yud Aleph, Divrei Hayamim Aleph, Divrei Hayamim 1, Perek Yud Aleph, exactly the same story with a few differences of words, very few differences, but this is the story. Now, let's understand, before we get into any deeper reflection, what is going on here? At first glance, it seems like a very strange request. You're surrounded by the Plishtim, who are completely in control of Beis Lechem. David HaMelech says, I have a craving. I want water from the well of Beis Lechem. The proper response might have been, Your Majesty, there's a time for everything. We're going to have to find water somewhere else. The well of Beis Lechem is not the best place for water. And yet, 3 people go, sacrifice their life, they go into the enemy territory, not to conquer, not to defeat, to get their king water. And when they finally bring back the water and David HaMelech sees it, the man who said, I would love to drink water from Beis Lechem, refuses to drink the water. And this the Tanakh tries to say in order to bring out the warriors, the quality of the warriors, how successful they were, how great they were. What did David want to accomplish? What is this about? Take a look in Rashi. Your next source, Rashi, this is Rashi, Divrei Hayamim Aleph Yud Zayin, which really this Rashi only makes the question far more dramatic. Zok Rashi, Mi ashkeini mayim eboir Beis Lechem, fällt is Wasser auf der Welt. There's no water in Israel. Zeh hoya mekoymai shel David. This was the place of David. Iksiv, David ben Yishai mi Beis Halachmi. Shmuel Aleph Perek Yud Ches identifies David as coming from Beis Lechem. Since David was accustomed, he grew up with this water, he craved it. Very interesting observation by Rashi. All water and all ear. How does ear come in here? Who's talking about ear? But Rashi says, all water and all ear that a person is accustomed to, these are suitable for him. They're good for him. If he's unaccustomed to it, they're actually damaging for him. We have an example for this in the beginning of the historical book of Josephus, that was written by Yosef ben Matisyahu, or known as by his Roman name as Josephus, who was a Jew who deflected and joined the Roman Empire during the destruction of Churban Bayesheni in the year 70 after the Common Era, and he wrote down the history of the Jewish people during Bayesheni and Bayis Rishon in his famous book of Yosifon, and Rashi quotes Yosifon. There was a queen, and she got married to somebody outside of her birthplace. The physician said, there's no way she will have a remedy if she does not bathe and enjoy the water from her own place, and that is what they did. So Rashi says, David HaMelech wanted water from Beis Lechem because that's where he grew up. This was the only water he could drink. All other water was loathsome and damaging, and that's why David didn't want it. Which now only begs the question. So they bring him the water, and what does he do? Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. You're sending them to get you water because this is what the water you want. It's a time of war. No, fine. That itself is not very impressive. But okay, they bring you the water, you pour it out. How are they supposed to feel? So the Metzudas David and Don Yitzchak Abarbanel both share a similar view. The Metzudas David says, Kasher shamu she'is'avelehem holchu me'atzmam lasas nachas ruach l'David. Metzudas and Abarbanel give the following explanation. David did not tell them to go get water. David was speaking nostalgically. David was saying in Yiddish, von Herz, and he was speaking his heart. And he says, mi ashkeni mayim ebar beislach. It's like when people sit and they sigh about the good old days. They don't mean anything. This is basically a way of communication. David HaMelech is saying, I wish I can get frische Wasser, some real water from Bayer. That's it, he said. He didn't send anybody, he didn't expect anything, he didn't dispatch anybody. These three chevra were so loyal to David HaMelech, they said, you know what? If this is what David wants, his taiva is our command. And they themselves went and endangered themselves to get the water. Now David HaMelech sees they brought the water, and David is almost embarrassed. He says, now you want me to drink this water? You want me to drink this water? The amount of effort that was placed, that was put in to obtain the water, has to be commensurate with the result of the effort. You went for Sakonis Nefashos to get the water, and what am I doing with that Sakonis Nefashos? I'm just drinking the water. Right? That's what Abarbanel explains. The investment, that's what he writes, the investment and the return have to match each other. There was too of a great investment for the return to simply be me getting my water. So what does he do? He dedicates it for Hashem as a carbon. The Radak says apparently the water was sent to the Mishkan, this is no Beis HaMikdash, to the Mishkan, or it's somehow dedicated to whatever it means, Vayasech Oisam Lashem, but to be used for God's purpose, not for my own purposes. This is how David deals with this water. This is one perspective in some of the Mefarshim. Comes the Yerushalmi in Masechta Sanhedrin, Perek Beis Halacha Hey, and the Yerushalmi says your next source, Bar Kapora Omar, Chag Hoya, V'Nisuch Mayim Hoya, V'Heter Bama Hoya. There's another part to the story. It happened to be on Sukkot. On Sukkot, there's a mitzvah of Nisuch HaMayim. You got to pour water on the Mizbeach every morning of Sukkot, and the whole Simchas Beis HaShe'eva revolved around the libation of the water every morning of Sukkot. Every day they would pour wine on the altar. The 7 days of Sukkot, they would pour water on the altar. Nisuch HaMayim, this was Sukkot. David HaMelech wanted spring water to be able to be Mekayim Nisuch HaMayim. It's Beis Lechem. So he says, Heter Bama Shadayan Lei Nesru Shekol Yemei Noi V'Givin Hutra Bama, as the Pnei Moshe says. The commentator Pnei Moshe and Yerushalmi says at that time, you can create a bama, means you can create a personal mizbeach, a personal altar, and offer karbonis. So David HaMelech can take this water and pour this water as Nisuch HaMayim on Sukkos. Fascinating perspective of Yerushalmi. That's why he asked for the water. Of course, this leads us to the question, why did he tell them, Mi ashkeni mayim mebar beslechem? Who's going to give me water to drink? And then they bring it. He says, oh, Chalilali, it's not for me. It's for Hashem. So in other words, initially, he did want it for himself. Later, he said, hey, it's Sukkos, Nisuch HaMayim. It also seems very difficult, very strange. Even according to the Abar Ben Mel and the Metzudas David, the obvious question is, David HaMelech said, I would love to drink water. They went to do nachas ruach for him and get him water. How do you feel when you sacrifice yourself for something, and ultimately the person whom you sacrifice yourself for rejects your offer? When David HaMelech says, I'm going to use it for Hashem, it's a very noble deed. But wouldn't it also be a little disrespectful to them? The fact that David HaMelech completely rejected their ambition and what they had Mesiras Nefesh for to bring him water, and he wouldn't even taste this water. How did it make them feel? So both of these explanations, it seems, have difficulties. Now we can appreciate a Gemara in Baba Kama. The Gemara in Baba Kama has a completely different perspective on this story and sees the entire story actually as symbolic. Not literal, but symbolic. How does the Gemara get to such a far-fetched conclusion that the story is not about water, the story is not about a well in Beis Lechem, the story is not about David HaMelech not drinking the water, the story is not about David pouring the water for Hashem? That's not the story, it's a different story. So the Rishonim say that the story on a literal level is so difficult, it's so incomprehensible, the Gemara had no choice but to see it symbolically. It's one of those stories that their tradition tells them there's no way of explaining it literally. This is pointed out by the Ravid and the Rashba in Baba Kama Daf Samach, where the sugi is. Take a look, Chidush Ravid Baba Kama. Mashma da lav al mayim mamish ka'amar shima yatzama l'mayim kol mayim hayutoivim la. It can't be that David HaMelech was looking for water. If he was looking for water, if he was thirsty for water, all water would be good for him. He doesn't buy what Rashi says, all water would be good for him. Says the Rashba, it's hard to believe he was thirsty for water. David HaMelech had enough water, the Rashba says. And therefore, this story does not mean that David was searching for water. The Marsha in Baba Kama Daf Samach says, B'tchila my savu shara yadu shoyesh matzav plishtim kemafurish b'kra va'afal became amar mi ashkeni ma'imlu b'seif my savu dayaval ishtoisam. Marsha is asking the obvious question. I don't understand. You knew that the Philistines were there. You say you want water. They go and get you the water. Now you're not going to drink them. What were you thinking initially? Again, he doesn't embrace the answer of the Metzudas that David didn't mean it seriously. He believes David meant it seriously. I want water from Beis Lechem. You know it's dangerous. So if you know it's dangerous, why are you sending them? You send them, they come back. Oh, I'm not drinking it because it was so dangerous. And therefore the Marsha again feels that Chazal were compelled to reinterpret the story. But how did they reinterpret the story? So if you'll turn around to page 2, to side 2 of your sources, let's see the Gemara inside Baba Kama Samach Amud Beis. Zog the Gemara, Vayisave David Vayoymar mi Ashkeni Mayim Ber Beis Lechem Asher Bashar Vayifku Shleishos HaGebayim B'Machne Plishtim Vayishavu Mayim mi Ber Beis Lechem Asher Bashar. The Gemara quotes the entire pasuk that we learned just a few moments ago, Shmuel Beis Perich of Gimel, and the Gemara takes for granted that the story is referring to the following symbolism. In many places throughout Shas, you have it in Baba Kama, you have it in many other places, Ein Mayim Ela Torah. Water is referred to Torah. The Sanhedrin, the supreme courts of the Jewish people, would sit, Shoiftim B'Shoitim Titin Lecha B'Chol Sha'arecha. They would sit in the gates and the portals of the city. When David HaMelech says, I'm looking for water from the well of Beis Lechem, Asher Bashar, What he's really asking for is, I wish I can communicate with the Sanhedrin located at the portal of Beis Lechem in order to get water, in order to obtain water. I am thirsty for a certain psak halacha in Torah. I am confused about a certain aspect of learning of Torah, and I desperately crave for the Sanhedrin to communicate with me, but I know there's no way to communicate with the Sanhedrin because we are divided by the platoons of the Plishtim. Zok the Gemara, what was bothering him? What was bothering David HaMelech? What was his question? My Rav Amar Reb Nachman, Tamun ba'eish kami boyelei. Ik Reb Yehuda, ik Rabbanan. Upashtulei my de pashtulei. Baba Kamed of Samach Aleph has a Mishnah, and it's the famous sugya known as Tamun ba'eish. Meaning, in Parshas Mishpatim, the Torah says, if you light a fire in your own premises, and the fire travels, the fire travels. You did not control your fire. It goes into somebody else's property. It burns down his field. It burns down his stalks. It burns down his storehouses of grain or whatever else. You are responsible for the damages created by the fire. A pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim, one of the Arba Avos Nezikin, Ashur, Va'abor, Va'amavet, Va'ahever, fire. Here's the question. You light a bonfire in your premises. It's a snowy day, and you decide you want to sit outside. Since today is spring, relatively speaking, it's a nice warm day to hang outside. Relative to last week, it's mamash a hot summer day. And you decide you light a bonfire. A wind comes, the fire travels, goes into somebody else's field, and burns down the field, chas v'shalom. Says the Torah, you're responsible for the field. What happens if in the bushes this person hid something? He hid his computer. Why vesachnish? Or he hid tools, or he hid anything else. This is called tamun ba'esh. Other items were hidden in the field, in his property, in his outdoors property, and the fire burns them. Am I liable for those items? So this is an argument between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabban. Rabbi Yehuda says you're liable. Whatever the fire destroys, you have to pay. The Chachamim say you're not liable for tamun ba'esh. They learned it out from the word hakama. Just like the makama begolui, avkol masha begolui, just like the standing stalks are visible, whatever is conspicuous, you're responsible for. If it's inconspicuous, you're not responsible for. As the Gemara makes it very clear, this is only in the situation where you're lighting a fire in your own premises, and the fire travels inadvertently and goes into somebody else's field. But if somebody lights up another person's property on fire, their home or their field or their tower, whatever it is, you go into the other person's premises and you light the fire, then you're responsible for everything that the fire burns down. Right? This is only a situation where it's your own fire and the fire travels, so there's a machlokes about tamun. If something is concealed, Rabbi Yehuda says, even if it's unexpected, you have to pay for it. If it's unexpected to be there, Chachamim say not. This is the question David HaMelech has. Tamun. Says Rashi, was happens? So Rashi explains. Maise bolafon of b'machana shesorfu anoshav gadish shel Yisrael. A maise. They came to David and they said, you know, your chevra were bored one day. You know, soldiers can get bored. Even not soldiers can get bored. And they burned down a gadish shel Yisrael. Or maybe it was part of the war effort. Doesn't say why. They burned down a gadish, which means stocks of hay of a Jew. V'nitzrach lishal halacha. David needed to know, Im chayavim l'shalom ke'elim atmunim b'toiche k'Rabbi Yehuda p'turin k'Rabbanan. Is he responsible to pay for the utensils that were hidden in the stocks of hay like Rabbi Yehuda? Or is he just responsible to pay for the hay? And that spot where the utensils are, you imagine it's filled up with that particular hay and you pay for that too. But you don't have to pay separately for the kelim. This is what David HaMelech wanted to know. So what happens? He says, Mi ashkeni mayim boy beis lechem. I want to know a halacha. Tamun be'esh. Am I responsible? Am I not responsible for the tamun? But the Sanhedrin are in beis lechem. The Plishtim are dividing them. The three people burst through the Plishtim's platoon. They go. They find out the halacha. Poshtule, as the Gemara says, they tell him whatever they tell him. Whatever they told him. They come back to David HaMelech with the water. What's the water? The water is the halacha. Not water, but a halacha. So now what happens? David says, I'm not drinking this water. He takes the water and he pours it out to God. What's the pshat now? You explain the first half of the story. What's the end of the story? So the Gemara continues. Taf samach aleph amar aleph amar bakam. L'manda amar tomun beish kame bayilei michte. Gemara hu deshalchelei mailei avodav deshtroisa. What does it mean David refused to drink the water? They sent him a Gemara, meaning they sent him a halacha. They sent him a tradition of halacha. What does it mean he doesn't want to drink? He doesn't want to accept it? So what are you sending them to the Sanhedrin to find out the halacha? Then you don't like the halacha, you say, I don't want to drink it? What's pshat? And for the Gemara, de lo yamrinhu mishmayu. Of course David accepted it, but he would not repeat it in the names of those three warriors who actually communicated the halacha. Usually, if I'm giving over a halacha that I heard from three people who heard it from the Sanhedrin, we all have an obligation in Pirkei Avos, kol ha'omer davar b'shem ma'imre maybe gula. Repeat things in the name of the one who said it. You know the famous ma'aseh with the Chassam Sofer, that one of his students was becoming a rav in a city, and he said, Rebbe, I don't have material for drushes. If I repeat everything in your name, it's not going to look good because they think I don't know anything on my own. Do I have permission to steal? Can I say over Torah from you, from the Chassam Sofer, in my own name? My own name. Chassam Sofer says, Gesundheit, I give you permission. Anything from me, you could say in your own name and take full credit for it. Gewaldig. But the Chassam Sofer says, but one more stipulation. One more stipulation. If you ever make up Torah on your own, never say that in my name. My Torah you can say in your name, but your Torah don't say in my name. That's the condition. Three people went on Mesiras Nefesh to get Torah. They come back. David HaMelech accepts the halacha. V'lo yava David l'shtoisam. He's not drinking from them. He's not going to say it over in their name. Why not? Omar, he said, this is a tradition I received from the Bezdin of Shmuel. Remember, Shmuel Hanavi was the one who appointed David as a king. He appointed Shaul also as a king. I have a tradition from Shmuel. If somebody sacrifices, he gives up his life to die for words of Torah, you don't repeat the halacha in his name. They didn't just go learn. They gave their lives for Torah. I can't mention their names. Can't. I accept the halacha, but it's never repeated in their names. I saw one of the Mefarshim says a fascinating word. He says that's why the story is written in Tanakh in such a cryptic fashion. Why doesn't it say that the three warriors went and got a halacha and came back to David? Why does it talk about water? That was part of what David was saying. It doesn't even mention that they went to get Torah. We don't know that they went to get Torah. The Gemara explains it in Baba Kama. In other words, they were so removed from the story that even when the story is written, we don't associate them with Divrei Torah. It's a pshat, it's a medrash of Chazal and Baba Kama of Samachat. Frag the Gemara one second. Okay. David didn't want to drink the water. Why? Because he's not quoting them. Why? Because they were ready to die for it. So he takes the water and he pours it out to God. What does that mean? What does it mean he poured it out to Hashem? What did he do with the halacha? He poured it out somewhere. And for the Gemara, the Amrinhu Mishma the Gemara. He said it over not in their name, he said it over in the name of Gemara. The name of Gemara means he said it over in the name of halachic tradition. Or as Maratz Chia says, he said it over in the name of Kol Chachmei Beis HaMedrash. He said it over. In other words, this is the tradition that was given over by the sages of the Beis Medrash that they heard from the Sanhedrin, without associating it with Pliny ben Pliny, Pliny ben Pliny, Mishmei the Gemara. That's what the Gemara says. Now, first of all, we have to, what is going on here? He says, I want a halacha. They go and get it. Now he doesn't quote them. He pours it out to Hashem. He says it in the name of the Gemara. What's Pshat? So the Marsha tells us, Pshat. Zok the Heleke Marsha, Chidushi Agadas Marsha, Babakama Samachal. This is what I think. Saying something in the name of somebody else brings redemption to the world. Soon Purim is coming. The These people who relied on a miracle, because they knew the only way they can get to the Sanhedrin is through a miracle. And when your life is in danger, you're not supposed to rely on miracles. So through them, a miracle of redemption can't happen. And by saying something in their name, Mevi Geula L'Olam, David HaMelech says, in their situation, we're not going to use them to be Mevi Geula L'Olam because they violated this principle of relying on a miracle when there's danger. Even though we have a klal, messengers to do a mitzvah don't get harmed, and they were going to do a mitzvah to learn. But the Gemara says in the beginning of Psachim, actually about Shmuel and Shaul, that Shmuel told Hashem, how can I go? Shaul will kill me. Shluchei mitzvah einen nezoikin. But if shchichi hazeka, meaning if the danger is common, if it's frequent, or as Rabbi Chananel puts it, the kviya hazeka, it's established, Rabbi Chananel and Psachim, then you're not allowed to go even if you're a shliach mitzvah. So according to the Marsha, the understanding of this is they did something quite wrong. You have to preserve your life, and they were wrong for their behavior. The Maharal, Chidushei Agadas Maharal and Baba Kama, takes the same gang, the same path like the Marsha. The Maharal says, "Masha Omar Kol Misha Moisir Atzma L'Sakon Ne'emun Halacha B'Shemai." Lo Yidami La Da Amru Zois HaTorah Adam Ki Yamos Boil Ein Divrei Torah Miskayim Ela B'Misha Meimis Atzma Yolah. The Gemara says in Brachas Daf Samach Gimel, Zois HaTorah Adam Ki Yamos Boil. In Parshas Chukas, the pasuk says, Torah does not become entrenched in a person's life only b'misha meimis atzmai Allah. Somebody who's ready, in simple English, to kill himself for it. No. So what do you want from these three warriors? Zok the Maharal. Don't compare. Hasam kasher mekayim Torah midoichik. The Gemara doesn't mean in brachas kill yourself for it. The Gemara means that even if it's stressful, and even if there's challenges, and even if there's poverty, you have to dedicate yourself completely to Torah and not wait for luxury and prosperity and all the comforts in the world. You have to single-handedly dedicate yourself to Torah. It does not mean that you dedicate your life, you sacrifice your life, and you put it in a dangerous situation where you will probably, or you might not come back alive, even though in their case they actually managed to come back alive, but it was too supernatural, and therefore it was the wrong thing to do, the Marsha and the Mara. And therefore it's not a contradiction to Meimis Hatzmayallah, it's not a contradiction to the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Kachi Darka Shel Torah, Pas B'Melech Toichel, Mayim B'Mesura Tishta, Lorik Tishon, Chayitzar Tichya, that if you want to obtain Torah, you have to be able to transcend the needs and the obsession with physical comforts and so forth. It's completely two different creatures, like Naga Zebazeh, and therefore they were wrong. But 1 second. There's something that is very disturbing here. Who told them to go? I'm asking you. They went on their own. Who sent them? David HaMelech says, Mi yashkeini mayim mi boi beis lech. Vayisav. I'm dying to hear halacha. This is chenet shlafen by nach. I want to hear what the Sanhedrin have to say. These people go as your shluchim, as your messengers. On Mesiras Nefesh, they bring back the halacha of Tamun Beish. By the way, there in Gemara, there's another 2 explanations of other shilas that David HaMelech had. I chose here the first one, but there's another 2. For example, there was a Maisa where the Plishtim were hiding in a field of barley. They were hiding there. And the field of barley belonged to somebody. And David HaMelech asked a question. He knew if he doesn't put the field on fire, the Plishtim will ambush him and kill him and his people. On the other hand, if he puts the field on fire and the Plishtim will have to run away, they'll have to go back, he's damaging somebody's field. The question is, it's a practical question. Are you allowed to use somebody else's property to save yourself? And if you do you have to pay them back? That was another question. And the Sanhedrin says, you have to pay them back, there's no question. You're allowed to burn somebody else's field in order to save yourself. It's not a problem. You're allowed to steal something in order to save yourself, but you have to pay them back. But you're a king, so it's different in a time of war. A king is allowed to use somebody else's field. So there's different questions David HaMelech asked, and then there's a third question there in Gemara. You can look it up. So David sends them to ask these halachas as his shluchim, his messengers. They come back with the halacha, and suddenly he says, no, I have a tradition from Shmuel. You went on Mesiras Nefesh for Torah, I don't quote you ever again. Really? You send us, we come back, now you don't quote us. You take the water, you pour it to Hashem, you don't quote us, you don't drink our water. We don't exist. Question number 1, how do you understand this? It seems something is off here. Something is off. But I ask you another question. What in the world is the connection between Vayasech Oisam Lashem and Amrinu Mishmei de Gemara? What's the connection? He pours out the water to Hashem. What does that mean? He says it not in their name. He says it in the name of the yeshiva. He says it in the name of the community. He says it in the name of Chachmei Beis HaMedrash. How does that get captured in the words Vayasech Oisam Lashem? If he used it for Nisach HaMayim, I understand. If he used it for a carbon, I understand. He said it over not in their name. He said it over in the general tradition of Yahadus, of Yiddishkeit. Why is that pouring it to Hashem? Vayasech Oisam Lashem. Let's go for a moment to the world of the Rogatchover Gaon. You were waiting for that, yeah? You wanted to hear Rogatchover. So let's see what the Rogatchover has to say on this Gemara. Now, Kedar Koi B'Kodesh, he comes from different angles, different perspectives. He finds Gemaras that nobody ever imagined are connected. And for him, it's all simple, because it's all based on memory, and it's very obvious. Let's see the Tzofnas Paneach, Babakama, Samachalef, Amar Aleph. Now, let me just warn you, the next 4 lines are as cryptic as any commentary can be, because that's how the Rogatchover Gaon wrote his Pirush. Unfortunately, when he spoke, his yahrzeit is actually Yud Aleph Adar, passed away in 1936. Tafresh Sadik Vav, Yud Aleph Adar. When he spoke, Rav Zevin, right, Chama Yosef Zevin says, when the Rogatchover spoke, a 5-year-old child could understand what he says. When he wrote, if you're not a Baki in Shas Bavli, Yerushalmi, Tosefta, Rambam, and Oisekelin, it's impossible to even begin deciphering what he might mean. And even if you are Baki, you know what he's referring to, but to know what he means is already a whole different story. So let's see a piece of the Rogatchover, and I'm not going to tell you that I understand this, but I'm going to try to decipher some of his words. Zok Tzofnas Paneach. Ein b'Yerushalmi Perek Aleph Halacha Dalet Da Megillah Nemra Misinai. Take a look at Yerushalmi Megillah, Perek Aleph. The Megillah's Esther was given LaMoshe Misinai. How that comes into Baba Kama, we'll soon figure out. V'lechein mevur sham dein asid lehibatel. That's why the Yerushalmi says Megillah's Esther will never be obliterated. V'ayin sham be'perek beis the kavul ha-mesechta ritzon Elohim shelo yizbatel. Take a look in Yerushalmi Megillah perek beis. It says they made a mesechta for Megillah. What does that mean? It means it won't be nullified. U'kamavur b'Yerushalmi the Sanhedrin perek beis halacha he kavul mesechta l'doiris ritzon Elohim adein bezdin yachal levatla av gadol mehem. Take a look in Yerushalmi Sanhedrin. It says they made it a mesechta for generations. It means that no bezdin can ever be at mevatel, even if it's greater. V'zed the Amma Baba Kama Damrinu Mishma the Gemara. This is Pshat and Baba Kama Samach Aleph. He said it in the name of Gemara. Ritzaynei loymar the shuv eina yochel his battle kiven shemasar atzmei al divrei Torah, because they sacrificed themselves for Torah. It can't be nullified. Kemavur ba'avoy the Zorah da flamet vava mit Aleph gabe Yudches Gzeiris ein sham betoismus. Verstanden? Verstanden. Okay. Will sagen im Shir. What is it? Obviously, we have a Yerushalmi in one place, a Yerushalmi in another place. We have an Avodah Zarah, we have a Tosefta, we have a Tosfos, we have a Yerushalmi. What is going on here? So, let's see the sources inside. La'at la'at. Let's try to make sense of the words of the Rogatchover Gaon, Rabbeinu Yosef Rosen, the Tzofnas Paneach. Yerushalmi Megillah Perek Beis Halacha Dalet. Reb Shimon Bar Boi b'Shem Reb Yochanan. V'zichram lo Yosef mizara mikan shekavu lo chachamim mesechta. It says in the Megillah, we now travel to Purim. Okay? The memory of Purim will never leave the Jewish people. That's what it says in Megillah. Zok the Yerushalmi mikan, from here we learn that kavu lo chachamim mesechta. Or from here, because of this, the chachamim gave it a mesechta. What does this mean they gave it a Masechta? So the Korban Ha'ed in Yerushalmi says, Masechta Megillah. Masechta Megillah, they gave it a Masechta. I saw Reb Chaim Kanevsky in his commentary on Yerushalmi Megillah, says the same word. They gave it a Masechta, why? So that people should always learn it, because Purim can't be forgotten. If there won't be a Masechta, and forgessen, you don't learn, you forget. So there has to be a Masechta Megillah. I want to ask you a pshat. But I want pshat. Let's say Purim will one day not exist. But it was a Takanas HaNeviim. Let's say after thousands of years, for whatever reason, Purim would not exist. You don't have to know the halachas of Purim. Mikan shekavul a Masechta. The reason there's a Masechta is in order to know the halachas of Purim. What does it have to do with V'zichram lo Yosef Mizaram? The Nevi'im of that generation made a chiv, one of the 7 mitzvahs medivrei Seifrim, to read the Megillah, Shalach Manas, Matanas Lavyonim, Sudas Purim. You need a Masechta. You have to know the halachas. No, V'zichram lo Yosef Mizaram, that's where they made a Masechta. What about those halachas? We say mitzvahs p'teilus, the Gemara says in Nida, there's an opinion, mitzvahs p'teilus la'asad lavai. However you understand it. Or we'll soon see in Yerushalmi. Let's see the next stickler Yerushalmi. Well, not the next. Yerushalmi says that Sifrei HaNevi'im v'Haksuvim Asidin leBottle. The books of Nevi'im and Ksuvim are going to be bottled. Besides Torah Shebeksav Chumash and Megillas Esther. Chazal say the Yom Tovim are going to be nullified. Besides Purim. That's what the Medrash says. However you understand what it means. There won't be Pesach, there won't be Shavuos, there won't be Sukkos. Only Purim. So there shouldn't be Masechta Pesachim. There shouldn't be Masechta Sukkah. There shouldn't be Masechta Beitza. Why? It says they're going to be nullified. The answer is you have to know what to do Pesach. If you're not going to a hotel. If you are, then you don't have to know anything. Maybe that's pshat. Pesach will be bottled. You have to know B'dikas Chametz. You have to know B'yah Chametz. You have to know a Seder. What do you mean? It's such a difficult kasha that the Pnei Moshe, another commentator on Yerushalmi, Moshe Margolis, says it doesn't mean literally. He says Mikan shekavel chachamim mesechta doesn't mean they made a mesechta. He gives an answer which I think is a very big doichik. I think Mikan shekavel chachamim mesechta from the word smach. That from the pasuk v'zichram lo Yosef mizaram, the chachamim got a smach. They had something to rely on. When they said that everybody has to go hear the Megillah, even Koyanim in the Beis Hamikdash and Mevatel Talmud Torah L'Kriyas Megillah, everyone has to go hear the Megillah. Kavala Chachamim Mesechta, they had a smach, they had something to support them from these psukim, which obviously just demonstrates how difficult the Yerushalmi is. What does it mean? Mikan shekavala Chachamim Mesechta. Why? Because it will never be nullified. Zok the Rogatchover, you want to know what's pshat? Take a look at another Yerushalmi. Take a look at the next Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi Sanhedrin Beis Hey. V'loy ava David lishtais. Listen now. David didn't want to drink the water. Zok the Yerushalmi loy ava David shetikava halacha al shmoi. David did not want that the halacha should be established by their names. The halacha should be given over in their names. Instead, he poured it out to God. He made it a mesechta for generations. So the Rogatchover says in Yerushalmi Megillah, it says Mikan shekava lachacham mesechta. In Yerushalmi, Sanhedrin talking about David with the water, it says kava lo mesechta l'doiris. He didn't want the halacha to be attributed to their name. Don't say that this halacha came from these three people. No, it's a mesechta l'doiris. One Yerushalmi explains another Yerushalmi. But what does this mean? What's the idea? So the Rogatchover now takes us to another Gemara. Take a look at the Mishnah Shabbos Daf Yud Gimel. Ve'elu min halachas she'amru b'aliyas Chananya ben Chizkiya ben Gerin shalol levakinim nevro b'shamel b'silviyit chazbanim gazru boy bayoy. There's 4 blocked in the Shabbos, the first parak of Shabbos. The Chachamim went up to the attic of Chananya ben Chizkiya, and you had there the students of Beis Shammai and the students of Beis Hillel, and they took a major vote that day, and 18 edicts were decreed that day as Cantonists, institutions of the Chachamim, and in all of them, Beis Shammai got the vote, got the majority vote over Beis Hillel, and the halacha followed Beis Shammai, 18 gzeiros that day, and the Gemara goes through the 18 gzeiros. 9 of them, I think, had to do with Tumah and Tara, and other gzeiros, including some very famous ones, Piton and Yenon and Shamnon and Bnei Seyan, etc. Okay, so how does this come in here? Take a look. Avodah Zarah Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. Ha'amar Rabbi Chanan Rabbi Yochanan ba'koil yochel levatel bezdin divrei bezdin chaveiroi chutz mishmoinu asar davar shafilu yavei eliyahu bezdinoi ein shaymen loy. Yiddishkeit is comprised of 2 different aspects. There's what Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. There's what's written in Chumash. This nobody can tamper with. No rabbi in the world could come and say, I'm not in the mood of tefillin anymore. I don't care a bezdin of hundreds of people. But what about things that bezdin derived through their own logic? Meaning, it's not a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. It's not a tradition from Moshe. It's not an oral tradition, and it's certainly not an written tradition. It's something that they use their own logic and use the formulas known as the Yud Gimel Midas Shatar and the Dreshas behind the formulas that were given to interpret Torah, and they deduce certain halachas. So here, it's not so pashut. If you have a second bezdin that is greater than the first bezdin, b'chachma b'minyan, in both wisdom and numbers, meaning that the Av Bezdin, the head of the Bezdin, is wiser, is a greater scholar than the Av Bezdin who made the edict in a previous generation. And b'minyan, this Bezdin has more students, Talmidei Chachamim, attached to it, so the Bezdin can nullify and change the verdict of the previous Bezdin. But there's an exception. Yud Ches Davar. The 18 things that they voted on the attic of Chananya ben Chizkiya in Masechta Shabbos Daf Yud Gimel in the Mishnah, even Eliyahu will come and convene a Bezdin, and it's going to be a Bezdin of, as they say, Nishkin Katlakanyas, it's going to be a Bezdin of people who will be Gdoilim, even of the Bezdin at the time of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. That you can't tamper with. Why? It's not halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Hashem didn't tell it to Moshe. Moshe didn't say it. It's things that they themselves deduced based on Torah, or it's gzeiros and takonas that they made with their own logic, based on the formula of Torah, based on how they understood Torah, and it's part of the authority and prerogative of Bezdin that the Rebbeinu Shalom says, Lo yisashem in adavar yasher yagidu lecha. But why can't it be at Mavatal? These 18 things are off limits. Why? That's what the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah. So Tosfos brings the Yerushalmi, and this is what the Rogatchover is referring to. Zok the Yerushalmi, page 3, Yerushalmi Shabbos. Perik Aleph, halacha dalet, Tanyan, ein bezdin yachal levatel zivri bezdin chaver elam ken gadol memenu b'chachmo b'minyan. A bezdin can't be mevatel the words of another bezdin unless it's greater b'chachmo b'minyan, which is not easy. Because usually as the generations digress, you don't have a greater bezdin, right? But if you have, you could be a mevatel. Of course, this needs a bezdin of, we're talking about bezdin with smicha ish mepeyish to Moshe Rabbeinu. We mean the quality of an authentic bezdin all the way back to Moshe. Asir of Avun Rabbi Yehuda b'shem Shmuel lo yishanu el chutz l'shmoina esrei habetoich shmoina esrei afilu gadol einay mevatel. Those 18 things, even a bezdin gadol can't be mevatel. Why? Mipnei sha'amda lahen benafshei seh. Words of the Yerushalmi. Because these 18 things in Yiddish, what you would say, says a eingegangen in the neshama. Because these things, they were ready to put their soul, their nefesh, their neshama, they were ready to put their soul on these 18 items. What does this mean? So Tosfos and Avodah Zarah quotes this Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi Perikama de Shabbos Amar Rav Bun Amar Rav Yehuda b'Shem Shmuel Oishanu Ala Chutz Li Yitches Davar Aval Yitches Davar Afilu Gadol Einem Avatel Nesha Amdu Lahem Benafshei saying Pirush Mimashenatzu Cherev Bebeis HaMedrash. There was a sword etched in the base medrash. What does Tosfos mean? Take a look. Shabbos Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, "Na'atzu cherev bebeis hamedrash amru hanichnas yikames va'yotze al yetze." That day, on the attic of Hanani ben Chizkiah, they didn't just take a vote. They took a sword. They put it into the base medrash, and they said, "Whoever went in, went in. Nobody leaves." They didn't want Beis Hillel should run away or Beis Shammai should run away. There should be a fair vote. And 18 gzeres. There was a cherev bebeis hamedrash. Tain is the Yerushalmi and Tosfos. This is pshat amdala benafshei saying. There was a sword there. Their souls were at stake. Because of that, a bezdin that comes later can't be mevatel the words that were issued that day. Why? Because amdala benafshei saying. Comes the Rogatchover and says, what it says in Yerushalmi, he's not going to give over the halacha in the name of these three people. Instead, kava mesechta l'doiris. What's that kava mesechta l'doiris? So the words of the Tzafos Paneach was, what's l'doiris? The Yerushalmi says in Sanhedrin, David didn't want to drink the water. He didn't want to quote it in their name. Instead, Kava mesechta l'doiris. What's pshat? So the Rogatchover said, the oz ein bezdin acher yachal levatla afilu gadol mem. L'doiris means for eternity, for generations. No bezdin can ever challenge this halacha, even a greater bezdin. That's pshat in Baba Kama. The Rogatchover says, Damrinu mishma de Gemara. He's not saying it in a particular name. He's saying it in the name of Gemara, meaning this is the tradition, like halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Because that means it can't be nisbata. Why did David do it? Kivan shemasar atzmei al divrei Torah. What's the precedent? A Gemara and Avodah Zarah clearly that the yitches davar you can't be mevatel. Why? Because it's cherev beis hamedrash, because there was an element of mesiras nefesh. Here we're opened up. You followed, Chevra? Everybody followed. Here we're opened up to a different perspective completely. So the Rogatchover says, now come back to Masechta Megillah. What does it mean? V'zichram la Yosef l'mizara mikam shekava la Masechta? Not that they made a Masechta Megillah. You can make a Masechta for a lot of things. Kava la Masechta means what David HaMelech did. Kava la Masechta l'doides. He turned Megillah into a Masechta. Damrinu mishma de Gemara. It becomes part of a Masechta. What's part of a Masechta? Part of an absolute halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Like David did with the halacha of Talmud that the three warriors came. Like they did with the 18 things that happened in the vote between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. That's why it says, Zichram lo Yosef mizaram. That's the pasuk. It will never be erased because no bezdin in the world can ever be mevatel the takona of Purim, even if it's the greatest bezdin. And that's why the same Yerushalmi says there that Megillah is halacha l'Moshe Sinai, which is a very strange Yerushalmi. That Yerushalmi, everyone says, what do you mean Megillah is halacha? Everything is halacha l'Moshe Sinai. The Gemara says, Kol masha talmud vasik asid l'chadash is l'Moshe Sinai. The difference is, there's a Moshe Sinai that can be refuted. And there's a Moshe Sinai that's a Moshe Sinai, it's absolute. Megillah goes into that category. Kavala Masechta, V'zichrim lo Yosef Mizaram. And therefore it's associated with what David did with this halacha, like in Avodah Zarah with the halachas of the 18 things. Atkan, the words of the Rogatchover. But now, as we see a different perspective, so the Gemara now is reversed completely. Because these three people sacrificed themselves for Divrei Torah. So David said, I heard from the Bezdin of Shmuel, Kol ha-moiser atzmei al Divrei Torah, ein oinem dvar halacha mishmai. You don't say it in his name. What does it mean you don't say it in his name? To denigrate him? No. The Rogatchover says it's not attributed to him individually, and therefore another Bezdin could come and say, you said this, I said this. Like we say, you say, I say, you say, I'm smarter, you're smarter, my father's stronger than your tati. But we're talking here intellectually, scholastically, spiritually. It doesn't happen that way. He pours it out to Hashem means, who is it attributed to? Who is the water attributed to? Not the three individuals. To the Rabbi Shalom. The Amrinu Mishmei the Gemara. It's like halacha l'Moshe Messina. Kava Mesechta l'Doiris. No Bezdin ever could come be at Mavatal. How can a Bezdin be at Mavatal? If Hashem said it, how can a Bezdin be at Mavatal? Rabbis don't have such authority. Rabbis have authority to explain Torah, not to invent Torah. And the moment the rabbi is not explaining Torah, he's inventing Torah. He's not a rabbi anymore. Ois kaplushmacher. It's attributed to Hashem. So it could never be in his battle. This halacha could never be nullified. Now, let's see. The words that the Rogatchover deduced from Talmudic texts. Let's see it explained from an internal spiritual perspective in two svarim. Chidushei Harim Parshas Tetzaveh, Pri Tzadik by Reb Tzadok HaKohen Parshas Tetzaveh. Zog the Chidushei Harim, the next source. And here, the shir begins to come together, Be'ezer Hashem. Isa b'medrish muva b'lalatur. Mipnei shama Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom mecheni no lekach le'niskash mai b'parsha zu. Moshe is deleted from Parshas Tetzaveh. You remember why? Because he said, erase me from your Sefer Torah. Ask the Chidushei Harim, v'pela, v'chichas v'sholem nidnud chet bazeh shebikish rachmim al klal Yisrael. Really? Moshe Rabbeinu sinned by asking compassion for Klal Yisrael. We would think he would be rewarded, not punished. Rabbi Shalom would really want that Moshe should say, I couldn't care less, destroy them. V'yesh loymar, al pi drash chazal b'ba b'kama dav samach, v'yis'av David v'yashkeni mibor v'yaseh choysam l'Hashem d'amrinu b'shmei de Gemara kol ha-moyis yiratzim l'sakonos nefoshes al divri Torah enei malachim mishmai. Let's go to the Gemara in Baba Kama. If you sacrifice yourself for Torah, they don't quote you. V'hatam, what is the reason? Ki kol talmid chochem ha-miyageya atzmo yom echadish Torah mikol makom hu guf choytzitz b'tzad ma me'ha-Torah ha-kedosha ba'atzmusa. Every talmid chochem, the greatest of the great, who toils in Torah, who innovates is mechadish in Torah, true. But he's a guf choytzitz me'ha-Torah ha-kedosha ba'atzmusa. There is me, and there is the Torah. There is the learner, and there is the Torah. And the entity of the learner, he says, is a guf choitzis. There is some chatzitza. There is some partition because it's the Torah being dissected, analyzed, studied, dealt with, internalized, assimilated into my brains, even though we're talking about a Talmid Chacham, meaning a person who's completely dedicated and loyal to Torah. But there's still a person with their own mind, their own soul, their own imagination, their own limitations. Lekach niskar shmoi al halacha shezacha plain. And that's why the Gemara is so makbid to always say names. In many ways, it's not only a compliment, it's also a qualification. This was said by Rabbi Yochanan, this was said by Rav, this was said by Shmuel, this was said by Rav Papa, this was said by Abaye, this was said by Rabbi Akiva, this was said by Rabbi Shmuel. It's not only a compliment, it's also a qualification. This person was zoiche to obtain, to be mechadish to their hair, this nekuda in Torah, based on his shitta, based on his philosophy, based on his ashkafa, based on his perspective, based on his mahalach, etc. And that's really the concept of l'shitoses, throughout Shas and by Acharim, you have, this one has this view, this one, based on their experience of Torah. That's why we're so makbid to say a name. And the Gemara will always sometimes give three versions of who it was, right? Ikadamli was said in the name of this one, in the name of that one. Because if you really master Torah, it's a nafkamina. Because what Rabbi Akiva said, Rabbi Shmuel can't say. And what Rabbi Yehuda said, Rabbi Meir can't say. And what Rav said, Shmuel can't say. And what Rabbi Ami said, Rabbi Asi can't say, etc. Masha'enkin ha-moiser nafshoi. But when somebody sacrifices his soul for Torah, he doesn't only learn Torah, he sacrifices his nefesh for Torah, who command the leka mamish. Now his ego ceases to exist. That his life is now one. It's davuk with Torah in every possible way. So his Torah is not his Torah. From his words, Veg Torah alay, he becomes a shtik Torah. He becomes the chefza of Torah. There's no him learning Torah. There's no him mechadish Torah. His Torah, Torah is there. His very identity became one with Torah. He doesn't have an identity outside of it being a vehicle for Torah. V'chein, this is pshat. This is pshat in Baba Kama. Mikoblani mi beis dinai shel Shmuel haramasi. I heard from Shmuel, if you're meiser atzmi al divrei Torah, your name is not attributed to it. Not because we want to insult you. Lahepach mamish. It's the exact opposite. Your name is not attributed to it because it's not anymore Torah that was given over by you. It became Torah itself. It's God's Torah. It's like from the Rabbi Shalom, it transcends your individual character, disposition, mahalach, because of your Mesiras Nefesh. So therefore, vayasech oisam lashem. He takes the water, he pours it out to God. It's not you, it's Hashem's Torah. And that's why Damrinu Mishmei the Gemara. What's Pshat? Kavala Mesechta L'Doiris. No Bezdin could be at Mavatal. Back to the Rogatchover's Mahalach. Rogatchover said it in Oisis of halacha. The Chedush Rim explains it in Oisis of Chassidus, of Nister, of Avoida, Teres HaNefesh, Plimius. And that's Purim. Kavala Mesechta. What happened on Purim? Purim was a holiday of Mr. Esther, Megillas Esther. Esther didn't go into Achashverosh in luxury. The Chasher of vanity. Absolute Mesiras Nefesh. Kavala Mesechta. No Bezdin could be this Mavatal. It's not a Bezdin anymore. Vayasech Hoysam Lashem. Zok the Chedush Harim. V'chein hoya gabe Moshe Rabbeinu olav hashalom. This is the story of Moshe. Hagam shoya tamid mali dveikus. He was always full of dveikus. He was always one. Mikol makom nikra mechetzio lamata ish. The Medrash Tehillim says on the pasuk in Kapitel Tzadik of Tehillim, Tfilah l'Moshe Isha Elikim. What's Isha Elikim? If you're Ish, you're not Elikim. If you're Elikim, you're not Ish. Either you're a man or you're not a man. And the Medrash answers, Mechetzio l'mayla Elikim, Mechetzio l'mata Ish. Higher half Hashem, lower half man. Now we have to understand very well what this Medrash means. But whatever the Medrash means, the Chidush Yorim says, Mechetzio l'mata Ish. There's an element of Moshe that's an Ish. Call it his lower half. Gesundheit, but it's Ish. Ukeshem Mosar Nafshe over Klal Yisrael. B'mecheni na, Zachal lehidabek kulai. When Moshe said those words, Mecheni na misifrecha asher kasafta, there was no Ish left. There was no Chetzio l'mata Ish. Now Moshe gave away his very identity for the Jewish people. There was no Ish left. There was no self. Shaloi nikra b'bchinis Ish, rak hu ha-toira ha-gdoisha mamish. There's no Ish, Moshe. He is the Torah. L'kach nemar va'ata tetzaveh. Va'ata hakrev in shehu mamish ha-Torah ha-gdoisha. You command the Jews. Va'ata tetzaveh. Va'ata hakrev Aaron. You're doing it. You're a shliach. No, va'ata. Why va'ata? You are Torah. Va'ata tetzaveh. You are Torah. Torah instructs. Hashem instructs Torah. Zog the Pri Tzadik. Next piece. Ha'inyan al pi masha shamati me'erav HaKadosh. Probably means the Chidush Harim. Al masha amru la yavad avad l'shtoisam le'amninu mishmayu kol ha'mesin atzmo amasal d'v'ri Torah ne'emnim d'var alochem mishmay v'yasech ha'isam l'Hashem d'amninu mishmay d'gmara v'yesh l'havin Why would you punish somebody who has Mesiras Nefesh for Torah? The Gemara itself says you should have Mesiras Nefesh. And he doesn't agree with the Maharal's explanation that it just means poverty. The Gemara brings it on the pasuk in Tehillim that for you we died all day. Ein Sham. Says Reb Tzaddik, tak, it's not pikuach nefesh. There's no obligation in Torah to give your life for the words of Torah. No. But what if somebody doesn't even feel he's giving his life? Because he has such a tshuka, he has such a desire that this is natural for him. It's not a punishment. Hadivrei Torah shaloi klulim b'makar ha'elyon ve'ein lehem shaychus lenafshay b'protius rakim dvar Hashem mamash. This person becomes, in a very conspicuous way, an embodiment of dvar Hashem. His words are God's words. He ceases to be an individual extension of Hashem with his own ego and identity, as holy as it may be. But rather the Dveikus is now fully, there's no Ish, there's Elikim. We don't say it in his name, it's not his name. It's just like a Moshe Misinai, who Hashem told Moshe, this is the halacha to give over to Klal Yisrael. So now, Moshe is writing the Sefer Torah with a quill and ink, and he finishes writing, and there's some extra ink in the pen. Why is there extra ink in the pen? Because his name is missing from Parshas Tetzaveh. His name is missing. Mechelina Mesifrecha. The Zohar Chadash says his name was supposed to be in every pasuk of Tetzaveh, just like in Pekudeh, again and again. Kashetziv Hashem es Moshe, Kashetziv Hashem es Moshe. The same thing should have been in Tetzaveh. So it's not just a little ink that's left. A lot of ink is left. And his name is deleted from the whole Tetzaveh. Why? Because he said, Mechenina Mesifrecha Shekasafta. That moment, that ink, that's the glow of Moshe. That's the Koranoi Pnei Moshe. There's two Moshes. There's Moshe pre-Mechenina, there's Moshe post-Mechenina. Moshe pre-Mechenina is Moshe Ish Elikim, Moshe Rabbeinu, which we already have very little hasaga in, or no hasaga in. Then there's Moshe post-Mechenina. Moshe post-Mechenina, his name is deleted. Why is his name deleted? Because at that moment, Moshe transcends even the level of his own name. There's no Moshe. There's Va'ata, you. And the Klei Yakar says that Va'ata is Atzmiyuscha, your essence. The etzem of a person is higher than the name of a person. Because the name is the part of you that is used for other people. I can't speak to you if I don't know your name. I have to call you, I have to communicate to you. But when you speak to yourself, you usually don't call yourself by name. When you think to yourself about something, you call yourself by name. Hopefully not. There would be an issue with that. So your essence transcends your name. The name relates to your part, the way it's experienced by others. That's your shame. Your ata is the you ba'atzmiyuscha. Moshe Rabbeinu was an ish haTorah. At this moment, Hashem says, I want to destroy the Jewish people. Moshe says, Mecheni na min sifrecha asher kasaft, erase me from the Sefer Torah. But Moshe is Torah. Yet Moshe's love and commitment to the Jewish people is so profound that he's ready to give himself up completely, meaning he is Torah, Zichru Torah's Moshe Avdi, he's ready to give it up completely. For what? For the Jewish people. That's his ultimate moment of Mesiras Nefesh. He ceases now to be an Isha Elikim. He becomes a Shtik Elikus Mamash, he becomes a Shtik Torah. Therefore we don't quote Tetzaveh in his name. There's no Moshe's name, there's Va'ata Tetzaveh. You are Torah, you are Dvar Hashem. The fascinating thing, of course, is he's not having here Mesiras Nefesh for Torah. He's having Mesiras Nefesh for the Jewish people who actually broke the Torah. The pshat, of course, is it says in Medrash Rabbah, Parsha Aleph Piska Dalet, and in Tana de Eliyahu, that he asked Eliyahu, what's first, Torah or Yisrael? What comes first? In other words, are the Jewish people here to implement Torah, or is Torah here for the Jewish people? And Eliyahu Hanavi says, V'ani yomer Yisrael kadmu l'Torah shenemar tzavas bnei Yisrael daber al bnei Yisrael emer al bnei Yisrael. The Torah was for the Jew, or it says in Bereshis Rabbah, machshavton shal Yisrael kadmu l'chol davar. So Moshe Rabbeinu, as much as he's connected to Torah, deep down in his etzem, he's connected to the Jewish people, which are ultimately the source of Torah. Yisrael v'iraisa v'kutshabrichu kul echad, and the connection of the Jew with Hashem, so to speak, Kavayachal, precedes and transcends Torah, because Torah was given to the Jew to bring out his relationship with Hashem. But therefore, Torah doesn't make the relationship. Torah brings out the relationship. It's not pshad the Jew is evil, and if he does Torah, he becomes positive. No, the Jew is one mamish with Hashem in his essence. The Torah is Hashem's gift to bring out the relationship, to facilitate the relationship. Hashem says there's no hope for the Jewish people. They broke Torah. This time, this moment, Moshe's atzmius comes out. He says, Imayin, there's really no forgiveness. If you can't find in Torah a way to forgive the Jewish people, then I don't have a relationship with Torah. We have to go to the relationship that's even deeper. My essence to your essence with the Jewish people's essence, and that becomes revealed in Torah, and that's how Moshe's essence becomes Torah itself, because ultimately the kavanah of Torah is to bring out the kedusha of Klal Yisrael, of the Jewish people. That's the extra ink. The extra ink is the ink that comes because his name is deleted. Why is his name deleted? Because now he has no name. He is Elokus Mamish. That's the Tetzaveh, where his name is not mentioned. That's the extra ink. That's the Mecheni Nam Mesifrecha Asher Kasofta. That's the Skayim and Va'ata Tetzaveh. That's the Chiddush of Purim of Megillas Esther. That's what David HaMelech did with this water. He didn't drink the water. And essentially that's the Nisach HaMayim of Sukkot. The Nisach HaMayim of Sukkot, it says in Svarim, Yayin is what you comprehend. Mayim doesn't have a taste. Mayim represents commitment, Kabbalah's El Mesiris Nefesh. That's the Nisach HaMayim of Sukkot. I'll tell you two maises in conclusion. There was a student of the Maggid of Mezrich. The Maggid of Mezrich, the student of the Baal Shem Tov, second generation of Hasidic masters, had a student. Tragically, he became a shikr. He became a drunk, an alcoholic. And he's known by Hasidim as a neufel. He went through a nefila. He became a neufel. He became a beggar, a drunk, and he would go beg from door to door. It was a very tragic story. They call, I don't know his name, they call him the Volpa. The Volpa, you ever heard of the Volpa? He was a Gewaldike Yid. It was a Gaon Olam, to the extent that when the Maggid would finish his Maimorim, there were only two people who would review the Maimorim. Because the Baditchever, Reb Zushav Anapoli, the Noyam Ali Melech, the Chayzer, they had such a slavos, they had such passion, they couldn't sit and review the Torah. Their Baditchever would start jumping, Reb Zusha would start dancing. There were two people, great Bali Moichi. One was the Volpa, and the second was the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe. The Volpa had a very challenging end. I told you, he had serious tragedies. He became a neufel, he became a drunk. The Balatanya had a student, his name was Rabbi Mordechai, the Rav of Babroisk. He was an interesting person. He was a Talmud of the Vilna Gaon, a Gaon Olam, and then he became a Chassid of the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya Rosh Hashanah. And he was the Rav of Babroisk. Rabbi Mordechai was once sitting and eating dinner in his home, and a beggar comes to the door and asks for some food. Baruch Mordechai invites him, sits him at the table, and gives him food to eat. He's looking at him, and he sees how he's eating, and sometimes you just get this, this gut feeling, this instinct. And he has this instinct that this is the Volpa. Just the way he was behaving. He's heard, legends about the Volpa, and he felt that this is the man. So what did he do? He went to the front room where he left off his tarba, the poor people would walk around with a tarba, with a bag, a sack. And as he's eating dinner, Baruch Mordechai starts looking through his bag to see maybe there's a manuscript of Chassidus that the Volpa wrote from the Maggid. Then very little was printed. Every such document was priceless. So he was looking, maybe he could find in the bag, a manuscript. As he's searching through this man's bag, suddenly this beggar turns around and catches him in the middle of the Asik, and he says, I'm a ganav? You're suspecting me that I'm a thief? Why are you stealing why are you looking through my bag? It's privacy, it's private things. You think I took something from your house? I don't want to be in your house if this is how you suspect me. And then he looks at the Baruch Mordechai, who apologizes. And he says, listen, let me explain to you the difference between you guys and us. He says, you write everything down. You know why you write everything down? Because by you there are three distinct realities. Sedot the Rebbe, Sedot the Chassid, and Sedot the Torah. You have the Rebbe, you have the Chassid, you have the Torah, so you have to write it down. By uns hat man gar nicht verschrieben. By us we wrote nothing. Weil der Rebbe und der Chassid und der Torah ist gewesen ein Sach, darf man nicht schreiben. The Rebbe, the Chassid, and the Chassidus was one thing, you don't have to write it. You never write on a piece of paper where you are. Even mamish, a guy who forgets everything. Every day you forget the keys to your car. You forget your attaché. You don't know where your socks are. But you never write down on a piece of paper, and I am standing here. Because it's not shaykh to forget yourself, because that is your very self. So he said, by us, the Rebbe and the Torah was one with us, we didn't have to write it. That's why you're not going to find any manuscripts. And he stood up, and he left the house. And Baruch Mordechai understood this was the Volpa. Dveikus. Number 2. There was a Tsar Tsar Nikolai. In the 1800s, he issued forth one of the worst decrees in Jewish history, perhaps. It's known as the era of the Cantonists. You know what the Cantonists were? Cantonists was a forced draft on the Jewish community of youngsters between around 10 and 18. Every community of all religions, of all nationalities in Russia, of all peoples in Russia, had to give a certain quota of youngsters to go serve in the army of the Tsar, of the Russian Tsar, for 25 years. But Nicholas, who was a Russia Merusha Mamish, had the special affinity to make sure that this decree does not escape the Jewish community. And between 1827 till 1856, during the reign of Nikolai, that's from Tov Kuf Pei Zayin, 1827, till Tov Reish Yud Ches, 70,000 Jewish youngsters were drafted into the army, and 50,000 of them were fachak, they were kidnapped, they were abducted. Now, it's hard for us to understand what this means, but the panic of Jewish communities in Russia during those 3 decades can't be described in words. Because communities hired chappers. They hired people to grab children on the way from yeshiva, on the way to school, because if they wouldn't produce the quota, the community would suffer terribly. So they hired people to abduct kids. They were sent into the Tsar's army for 2.5 decades. They became known in Jewish history as the Cantonists. The Cantonists in English. It was the name of the barracks that they stayed in, I think. It was a horrifying Zayram. It's hard to imagine. Nicholas said clearly his main objective with the Jews is to baptize them. He wants them to become Christian, and he was successful with many of them. There was no kosher food, there was no community. Those who refused to eat treif, they would often whip them with the tefillin that they brought in, and they were after bar mitzvah. They tortured, many of them died. But there were those who remained and survived and remained as Jews, and when they finished 25 years, they came back to the Jewish community. But you can understand, an education they didn't have, a sviva they didn't have, a community they didn't have, an environment they didn't have. They were powerful people, they were in the army for 25 years and they were successful, and now they finally came back. So the integration with the rest of the community was very difficult. So there were cities in which they had Cantonist shuls. They had shuls for the Cantonists because they daven their own way, they spoke their own way, they communicated their own way. They wouldn't fit into regular shuls. Between you and I, bluntly, Jews are not always the most sensitive that they should be. And there were even some Jews who, in their stupidity and cruelty and lack of understanding, would even make fun of them. because they were boors, they were completely illiterate, they were completely uneducated, they completely lived their own life, so they didn't know much. So, people always have remarks, but people that are not like us and we're not uncomfortable with, they challenge us, so we sometimes give snidey remarks even though they're quite unjustified. Simchas Torah, people often would go to the Cantonists shuls because the way they dance, nobody could dance. The way they have dance, nobody danced. Vahi Ayoim, a Yid once told a story. He went to a shul of Cantonists in Russia, and it was Simchas Torah, and the Cantonists danced like Cossacks. They were like Cossacks. First of all, they were mighty, they were muscular, they were athletic, they were fit. It's not like some Jews, they pick up a Sefer Torah, they walk around twice, they're out of breath, and they have to sit down and eat for the next hour till Hakafas is over. Sour pickles and some orange juice because he went around the bimah 3 times. The Chevra were 25 years in the armies, and Gatans, they knew how to dance, they were dancing, and they weren't dancing, it was almost like, they looked like Cossack horses, lahavdil. It was a very impressive scene, but there were some Yidden who made, remarks, They made remarks, it didn't appear Jewish to many of the Jews. And they were dancing their hakafas. Then came the last hakafa, the 7th hakafa. And almost on cue, the Cantonists did something that put everybody in shock. What did they do? They removed their shirts. And they held the Sifrei Torah to their beer skin. And everybody looked at their skin. And their backs, chests, stomachs were filled with scars, welts, wounds from the whippings, from the torture, from the abuse over the years, trying to torture them, to baptize, to convert, to eat non-kosher food, to violate every mitzvah. They were tortured over the years, and all those scars and blemishes were left in their body. And they put the Sifrei Torah, holding them on these scars as they were dancing, which for them was the feeling that these scars were scars for the Torah. And a Yid said he was standing at the Zayda, and the Zayda started to weep. A few minutes ago he was making remarks about them, but now he started to weep. And he said, Mir Allah, Mir tanzen with the Sifrei Torah. We all hold the Sefer Torah and we dance with the Sefer Torah. Zay zayin Sefer Torah. They don't dance with the Torah. They are Sefer Torah. They are Torah. Their bodies became a shtik Torah. The torture they went through transformed their very physical beings into a shtik Torah. He says, Zay tanzen ish with the Torah. Zay zayin a shtik Torah. They are Torah itself. Have a wonderful week. God willing, next Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Steifers Gemara. You're very welcome. Thank you.
As always, I enjoy it.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Not related. Where's the source for arvus that the children? The children are the guarantor of the prize, right?
What name? It's in Medrash. If you'll email me, I can send it to you.
Yeah?
You have my email?
What is it?
Y Jacobson.
Jacobson.
@yeshiva.net. Was macht er?
Unbelievable. When my choira parged, but unbelievable. Better and better. I gotta tell you. What a story.
Shalom Aleichem. Moire de Kamaisa, huh?
Ja, aber nee, wir gehen nicht sicher kommen. Wenn ich sage, nur nach der Tetzaveh. Wo das sagt man kennen. Okay. Wow. Alle Bruten sind geht. You know the company. Wow.
If we have available a Yerushalmi that explains the Navi as the allegory, so why are the Mefarshim looking to defend it against it being a literal translation? Well, why would there be a having that as a literal translation?
Well, the Radak writes clearly, he says that it's such a doichek to say that it's talking about halacha. Tanakh is not written that way. He says you have to explain that it means Maya.
But how does he explain the Yerushalmi then?
Not only Yerushalmi, Bavli also, but come on.
Oh,
Why only Yerushalmi?
yeah.
Yerushalmi too, but
Right.
you have Bavli.
Right.
The Mefarshim of the Tanakh have their own mahalach. They say clearly, there's Shivim Panim L'Torah, there's Drash, but there's Pshat.
Right.
And according to Pshat, we don't go there. In other words, there's Drash. Every pasuk in Torah has layers and layers and layers. But don't say that's the literal meaning. So therefore, they struggle to understand the literal meaning. The Radak quotes the Maisa with Nisach HaMayim, and he says, okay, this is a little better, he says, Lefi Pshat. At least there was water. But he says, according to the Gemara, it wasn't even water, it seems too strange. So they do it often. They often reject it. Not that they're rejecting the emes of it; they're just rejecting that's the pashut, the meaning of the pasuk. Do they mean?
So the Lavdavka, the story didn't happen.
Right. They don't get into that. They're just saying there's a level of pshat.
Right, but the Maharsha.
It could be there was another Maisa on another level.
Right, but the Maharsha and the Rash will say that Maisa didn't.
Yeah, they're explaining the pshat of Baba Kama.
Okay.
That itself is. These things are very common.
Beautiful.
Bruchim to you.
This was the beginning, the kasha, what was the original kasha before Ashkeni Mayim by David?
The original kasha was why Moshe was punished.
Why was Moshe punished by
Why there was ink left over.
And what has to pour on?
I connected because the Rogatchover makes a connection between the Masechta of Megillah and the Masechta of Taman Be'esh. He says the two Yerushalmi.
I was looking before that Ashkeni Mayim.
I don't think so.
Go ahead, first of all.
You follow?
That's why I think.
He didn't really talk about why Parshas Tetzaveh versus other Parshas.
Yeah.
Why that Parsha. I saw a vart from the second bab of whatever.
Second bab of whatever?
The second bab of whatever. You should see him. Says the reason why is Tetzaveh versus other Parshas.
It's fun, yeah?
He says because Moshe Rabbeinu said, Mechanin u'mesifrecho. So the decree was there that its name should be, but Moshe Rabbeinu was so chashiv that it got pushed off another week, and then another week, until Tetzaveh he couldn't push anymore. At that point, it was already there.
Very good.
That's what he wants to say.
Very cute.
But
this is l'chayr pshat de Vilna Gaon also.
Could be.
In other words, that the hidden name of Moshe comes out in Tetzaveh. The hidden name, not the Golidic name, but the hidden name of Moshe. You understand what I'm saying? So the Vilna Gaon says that the hidden name of Moshe is in Tetzaveh 101. His revealed name didn't come out, but his hidden name came out. His etched, his atzmius.
As for the doctor says it was Nisach HaMayim.
Yes.
So he asked, what's really Ashkeni Mayim? Why do we make Mayim? Because of the Spizen. I was really talking about the Spizen. I need my Spizen water.
Who says this?
Nobody. I was thinking
why
you were asking the question. Could be.
David's a Spizen.
He has a Spizen on Shasukas.
Shanirah.
Doesn't know what day it was. Well, depends if you're Lubavitch or not, but yeah. They go different shittas.
Two shittas.
Another thing, I thought I had while you were giving the speech, why Taka Moshe Rabbeinu's name was taken away, because it's the Bnai Shia talks and I think it's in Masechta Shabbos. Yisrael is Yashishim Riba Oisi's L'Toyre. Yeah? He says if you start counting the Oisi's, you're not going to get to 600,000. It's a lot less than that. So how do you get to 600,000? So he has many different answers. One of the answers that he has is the Yashem L'Mikra, the Yashem L'Masoiris. Some Neshumas have with the physical Oisi's L'Toyre, but some Neshumas have with the Mikra, the way we read it. And with that together, you have the Shishim Riba. So later on, the Chassidim, the Sefer Drish come and say that it depends on what your level you are. If you're a higher level, you have physically the mikra, and if not, at that point you get only the thing. Some want to say there's the cloth around, even lower you have the cloth around. So I was thinking that's why Moshe Rabbeinu said when he came to see the idol, he saw the different levels. His neshama was really koil whole Klal Yisrael. So he said, no matter what, because these chaylik neshumas, I really don't want in the cipher. I'd rather have it as the Yashem Lemikhe, as not physical Oisias HaTorah. And that's why his name was taken out, because certain neshumas couldn't be anymore written in the Torah. It wasn't a punishment. Just as that.
Did you go into so why from the ink Kikar and Alparna?
That's
from the extra.
From this mysterious nefesh of Moshe, for Yidden, a deeper light came out. till then he was Ish Elokim, and now there was no Ish left. It was complete Dveikus. It's a different light.
He's not connecting why the ink.
Why was the extra ink?
Because his name is not
Because
mentioned.
his name is not mentioned. So all the times his name was supposed to be mentioned, there's extra ink.
Right.
That deleting of his name means he reached a deeper part beyond his name. He became Dovuk in the source. That's the light. It's a different light, the light of the Shekhinah. It's not his own light.
I wanted to mention something, but first ask you, what was the question David HaMelech had, whether somebody's responsible for the fire?
It's hidden in the fire.
So what was the answer, Rabbanon or?
The Pnei Yeshua says they probably told him like the Rabbanon, because that's the halacha. But the Gemara doesn't say. The Gemara says, Pashtule maide pashtule. They told him what they told him. I don't know what they told him.
Okay.
Pnei Yeshua says they probably told him halacha ki Rabbanon. Probably.
Which is Pata.
Which is potter. Tamam Beish is potter.
Right. So one night I was learning by Rabbi Leshis this Gemara, and he went to Rabbeinu Usher, and Rabbeinu Usher logically figured out that he should be fired for somebody else's property, that he shouldn't have been in the pile.
In the fire. In the pile.
And but the Rosh concluded and said, but the halacha is not like that because there's a Gaon, not Rav Hai Gaon, but another Gaon who passed in different, and we rely on the previous generation. So that could be Gemara.
Kavol on the Sechta L'Donis. That's what the Rosh writes in Mabakama.
He quotes another. Yeah.
The Rosh in Mabakama, Daf Samach.
I believe so. Yeah. And if it's the wrong place, ask Rabbi Leshis.
I think Cantonists is not because of the.
What's Cantonist?
I think it's the canton. It's like an area, like in Switzerland you have cantons. It's divided to cantons because on every area they put no, just where the word comes from.
The boys were known as Cantonists, derived from the term canton, referring to the districts they were sent, and the barracks in which they were kept. Canton is the districts they were sent to, and the barracks in which they were kept.
It can't be together. It can be the same. It's like in Switzerland, the country divided to cantons.
Cantons, okay. Maybe the barracks were also divided in cantons.
You're right, I'm thinking now also.
That's what they were called, Cantonists, the districts and the barracks, I think.
Same word for the same thing. Maybe.
There's a Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah. I've got the story.
Where did you read this from?
My notes.
But you didn't. It's
No,
not
no,
our
my
notes.
own
It's your
notes.
notes. Oh.
My name is not part of the Gemara.
There's a Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah that quotes a story about I remember the exact story, but the point that the Mishnah brings out is that any Bezdin from Moshe Rabbeinu, I don't remember the Lashon.
Of course, Rabbi Yeshua, Daf Chafei.
No
Yeshua Rabbi Gamliel.
No Bezdin.
If we're going to question Rabbi Gamliel, we're going to have to question every Bezdin.
I have a question over here. What do you mean, I've got on my name?
Because usually you can't be God.
It's going to be very hard to get a Gadol, b'chachma b'minyan. It's very. What happened there is Rabbi Yeshua, Tainet Rabbi Gamliel, that his Yom Kippur was the wrong Yom Kippur because he was makabel a wrong Edis HaChodesh. Rabbi Akiva told Rabbi Yeshua that if you're going to start questioning, so every Bezdin you can undo, you can undo the whole Torah. In other words, no one doubts that when the Bezdin says the halacha, that's halacha. In a later generation, they can question it. But when they say it, it's the halacha. By
the way, there's a fascinating Chasam Sofer in Parshas Mishpatim when he talks about this Gemara in Ein Bezdin Yochel Levatel. He says this is one of the reasons why if you have a Bezdin, you had a machlokes, they wrote down the Das HaYuchad.
Right.
Usually,
right.
Why even go to Das HaYuchad? Says if you write the Das HaYuchad and the Svura of the Das HaYuchad, if a later Bezdin comes by Svura, not by halacha, that they see that Svura better, they can actually override it, even if they're not greater. It's a very interesting way he goes, he says.
In Teres Moshe Mishpatim?
Yeah. On the Acher Rab and Lahatas, in that area, there, he talks about it.
So da, mi ashkeni man verber shava, kenoich zayin mi ashkeni mayim. Nisach HaMayim represents the avoid of Mesiras Nefesh. So David HaMelech is looking for that.
He was looking, that's true. Shkoyach.